Okay, I have to press the button that says got it. Got it. Okay. So align ourselves. Nice deep breath. Letting go of whatever isn't in this present moment. And one more. Deep, slow, relaxed breath. Relaxing as we become present with each other in this moment. And this moment is good. All righty. So thank you for joining us, and so glad to see you. So what we'll be talking about is, there's a lot of materials here, and I wanted to know what you'd like me to cover. If there's something in particular, because we won't be able to do this in an hour. And again, if there's enough interest, I'll continue next week. The main point is everyone's intuitive. I got everyone's intuitive. We were born with those intuitive powers. That's our innate wisdom that we came in with. And over time, our conditioning and our parents trying to, protect us and our mind overrides it. And so it gets squelched and maybe disapproved of. And I know my parents, they just thought my parents and my siblings would always say, you've got to be adopted. I mean, you're just weird. It's just a weird child. And, but I could fit in. I knew how to fit in because I can be like a chameleon, because that's how I survived. But I'd always experienced things different. And I was always sensing empathically what was going on that nobody was talking about. But then I'd say it because I was a child and I didn't have those filters. And then I get in trouble because I would say things that the family wasn't that happy about me noticing. So we tend to do that. Things happen, or we have the experience of, having it disapproved or shut down, or that's not a good idea. That's not practical. That you're being silly, that's ridiculous, or whatever. And so we just kind of mold ourselves to be in the tribe and survive, because we need the tribe. We survive because without the tribe, and hundreds of thousands of years, if you're isolated, you're going to get cold, you're not going to have food, you're going to be wolves. And so we always want the approval of the tribe. So we want to fit in because that's genetically survival mechanism. But intuition, always in a tribe, there was what they didn't know it was, but it was called the highly sensitive person. And 20% of animals and people are the highly sensitive people. And they tend to be very intuitive. And so they relied on the intuitive person to tune into danger, to tune into which direction to go, what's happening with what's a member, when somebody's sick, what to do. They would tune into it. So we all have that innate ability, and it does get kind of squashed or squelched. Then we're all operating from intuition, even though we don't realize it. We're just not aware of it. But when we become aware of it more clearly and recognize the voice of the intuition, which is not the voice of the busy mind, it's not the voice of fear, it's that kind of quiet, knowing feeling. And so my first question is, everybody gets intuitive information differently. Some people get it many ways. Some people have it like a main way that they receive intuition. So I'd like to just go around to each of you and ask you, what's the main way that you receive intuitive messages? Kind of a knowing, like you just kind of know. That's my main one. Or do you kind of see things, just like you have visual or images that come up for you, or in your dreams, or you're just kind of drawn to the visual, or you have a sense or a picture that comes for you? Or do you hear something? Like I'm also, auditory, so it'll be a word or a message, but it's in my voice. It's not a like, oh la la, it's not like an angel voice or I'm God speaking. It's just a voice, and it's mine, but I feel like it's being, channeled through me. Some people, so you see, visual, you hear, you sense, and or you have body things that happen to you, like get chills or sensations, or kind of shaking or goosebumps, or something happens to you physically. So anybody recognize which one works for them, or how you mainly get messages?
Well, it's a subject I've struggled with because mine got squelched so much when I was little. So I'm still working with it, And in acupuncture school, I learned my clinical instructor said, do you have a headache today? And I said, oh, a little bit. She said, well, when you feel something like that in the treatment room, you need to pay attention because it's not you. You're feeling it from the other person. So obviously she was very intuitive, and I learned a lot from her. So I do feel things, like that. And it's sensing. And I know even before I went to acupuncture school and my nursing, my hand just goes to where a person needs to be touched. I mean, it's not something I think about. It just does it.
Yeah, it does it through you, right?
Yes, yes.
It's just intuitive.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so I have to remember to just let it happen and not think about it. Because when I
Yeah,
think about it, it ruins it, right?
that's it. That becomes the block.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about, kind of why do we not follow our intuition or trust it?
Right.
And when we're working with clients, this is, I always work with intuition with my clients because I know I'm tapping into their knowing and their wisdom. And so I always ask people, how do you receive messages? That's a really great thing if you're running a group or you're working with an individual. How do you get messages so they can start really remembering, well, I get it through my body, or I just find my hand doing this, or I tend to see visual signs or things that just kind of flash in front of me. Or when I hear music, I have this, kind of intuitive knowing about something. And so we want to always ask our clients, because this is going to help them to make decisions and choices that are based on their authentic, higher knowing. And to keep validating that, keep validating. So people, I have my clients that say, what's your intuition? Because I have a very strong intuition. And I don't tell them my intuition. I say, what's your intuition? What's your gut feeling? Do you feel it in your gut? Which is connected to the heart, the brain. The gut is a bigger brain than the brain. And so it gives a message to the brain. And that's why we want to create the bodies that can really receive those accurate messages. And so I asked them how do they recognize their intuition? And people in my coaching, it's a lot of decision making. I don't know what I should do. I don't know what I should do about this, my relationship and this conflict. I don't know what to do to make money. I don't know what to do. I've got this health issue. I don't know how to proceed. So I have them start tuning into the messages of their body, and then to be, how do they know, what is the feeling they get when something's a full body yes, or when it's a no? And then encouraging them with courage to honor that, even if other people think you're wacky or you're making the wrong choice, you know. And again, I'm used to being wacky. It's like my family don't even, they gave up a long time ago, and I just don't talk when I'm with them. I just nod and hang out because I feel like I'm from a different part of the universe. So, and then to be have support sometimes. Hi, Walter. Hi, Malik. Hi, Susan. Hi, Sally. Good to see you all. So, we're going to go real quick, just a real quick, like, 1 minute each. How do you recognize your intuition? Is anybody else ready to share? How does it come to you? How do you most recognize it?
Rhonda, the words just arrive. And an example of that happened this week. My sister called me and said, I have a secret, but you can't tell anybody. I said, who's pregnant? And sure enough, it was the person was pregnant or going to be or was soon. It just arrived.
So you get it through words?
Words, and it's not like I see anything. It's just like a knowing.
So a knowing. So it's a knowing. Is that your strongest?
Probably,
Mm-hmm.
probably, because otherwise it's just my mind tries to manipulate what the messages are.
Yeah,
But
good.
there's no arguing with that, and we both laughed about it. Oh yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah, and like, where do we get this information, right?
Well,
Yeah, exactly. And when I talk about where do we get information, I like to ask my clients and my friends, or all of you, is some people believe they get messages from God. Some people feel like they have angels or guides or ancestors. Some people they feel like they're just getting it from the cosmos and infinite intelligence. So I always like to really understand what that person believes, so I can really support them when I'm helping them with their intuition. It's like, if they believe in angels, I said, maybe you could take some time to journal and ask your angels a question, write out, and just keep your pen on the paper, automatic writing. You don't pick it up, and you keep writing, even if it's just blah, blah, doesn't make sense. You're just talking about something stupid. All of a sudden, at the end of your writing, which I like to go for 10 minutes, and then you can ask yourself, is there anything more? And then you just see, you either learn something about yourself, or sometimes you just get an insight. So, or going to sleep too with that question. Just when you sleep, the brain integrates and takes all this information, starts integrating it. That's why I want to sleep on it before I make that decision, because that's when the brain does its networking. It integrates all the bits of information, puts it together. So, anyone else? How do you know, Mina? Oh, Pat, I'm sorry, Pat.
Unmute yourself, please.
Unmute, Pat. There we go.
Thank you. Greetings. So my intuitions fall, I think, into two categories. The first one is much like what you said, Rebecca, messaging that does come through a voice that I sense is not unlike my own, but I do think it's in a sense of a higher power speaking. And that's often come to me when I was in a dangerous situation or was getting guidance for how to avoid harm. I was guided once to avoid a serious accident, and I was told exactly what to do, and it was extremely powerful and completely clear. I would say the other type is when I seek to be clear. I meditate or I do things to tone down monkey mind, and whether that's a walking meditation or a true insight type meditation, or even a good, wonderful, long hot tub sort of soak, I feel after that things just come to me without trying. Not unlike what you were saying about sleep, that then things flow.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Pat. That's so good to see you.
Likewise to everyone and to you, most
Um,
particularly.
And so we'll just keep it to 1 minute. Anybody else, just like a 1 minute?
Mina is on next. Mina is raising.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Like Rhonda mentioned, for me, intuition just comes. It's not my voice. I just know it. But these days, one thing I'm noticing is water. If I need any answer to any question, I just get into shower. As the water falls on me, I have all the answers. I feel I have all the answers. That is not all. Whatever I'm thinking about. So that's my source of intuition.
And why do you think the water helps you?
I think there are two things. One, it's the relaxing.
Yes.
Water relax, and then I know what's going on. Second, I was listening to the yogic science. They say water is liquid computer, and body is 75% or 72% water. So water has something, the information. I don't know, but I'm like, okay, now I started noticing now, and I have my answers as soon as the water hits me. So.
Beautiful. So I think you're really tuned in right there, because whenever we're relaxed,
Yes,
it can flow through. That's why I'll notice it when I'm like doing something mindless, if I'm gardening or walking or washing the dishes, taking a shower. That's when creative things can flow through, because you're not busy with your mind and you're just more relaxed and mindful. Thank you, Mina. Anyone else want to share just how they receive intuition? Deanne.
Unmute yourself.
That way. Okay. Yeah. I forgot there are ways, and I never even thought about it, but I was doing Reiki with somebody and I smelled pipe smoke. It was in my house, and it was like, no way. So I just gently asked, do you know anybody who smoked a pipe? His father, who was deceased, did. And his father never approved of him. And he got a sense of peace. And I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. I forgot about that. Also, one time I remember coaching somebody and I just sensed a mother person. I didn't see her. I just sensed. And I just simply asked, what can you tell me about your mother? And it just struck the bell that person needed to know. And then just this last week, I was hiking and I really was too nosy and went over a mountain and knew I couldn't go back. And it was 100 degrees out and so on. Anyway, a knowing came to me. It was just keep going and then sit down as soon as you find a place. So I found a place, sat down, and lo and behold, I heard a woman's voice and things happened and I got out fine. But it was just like, just do it. Just do it. And I thought, okay.
Wow. Well, you got the, you're psychic, and it comes through smell too. Some people smell you can smell something that wasn't even there. That's
But you don't know. I think it's just being aware that matters.
Yeah. And saying something about it rather than discounting it.
Oh yeah.
That's part of it too, is you get it. And sometimes, I'll say to a client, I have this intuitive feeling, but if it doesn't resonate with you, or it doesn't feel right, this is just what's coming up for me. It may not be accurate for you. Yeah. So, but I offer it, but I also say, give them permission to say, well, because I've had people do that with me where they just tell me stuff. I have some friends that they think they're very intuitive. Like, oh, you've got to do this, or, this is happening or whatever. And it's like, no, So, but sometimes if you're having a sense like that, you offered it, like, the smoke, you could have ignored that. But then there was a healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Anyone else? 1 minute. All righty. All right. So let's talk about, I think I'm going to go real quickly, and I'm going to be reading these handouts because I don't have this stuff memorized. I haven't even looked at this for a while. I have studied with intuitive teachers. One of my favorite is Sonia Coquette. Excellent teacher, written 14 books. And I've had other teachers and programs that I've trained in, and it's always been important to me because it's how I can navigate like the energy of life. And I can't figure stuff out. I mean, I try and try and try, and I just get into that spin, and then I just get stressed. And so I know that we all have access to infinite knowledge, information, intelligence. And so we want to make ourselves as available for that, because not only is it accurate, but it's soothing to know that you really are guided and supported by a much greater frequency, a much greater light being, whatever it is for you spiritually. And I remember Einstein said that he would like work and do analysis and make all his formulas. And then he would go for a walk for a couple of hours, or he would observe art, and then or take a nap. And then he said, after he would do that, he would get the intuitive message, what thing to research next? What's the next thing to explore? And he said, that's how he came up with his formula. So what happens is, you're taking in from the mind and information, but then you're relaxing and you're letting it go, and then you're quieting, and then it can surface. And so in the intuitive blockers handout, these are really good for just anything, not only the voice of your intuition, which again, you can call the voice of God, the voice of your inner guidance, your higher self. And again, when you're working with your clients, helping them to name it in their words so that they are aligned and it's resonating with them. So it's really noisy nowadays. Like noise is the biggest invasion of intuition, because intuition is a still, quiet voice. It's not loud. And when we're always in noise, whether we're like listening to, television, internet, even talking to other people, there's no space. It's all filled in. And you only have a certain amount of, I call it attention units, like that you can spend on anything. And so when we are deciding about how we want to live our life and what's our prioritization, what we prioritize, we need to make space for it energetically through our ears, all our senses. When we keep bombarding our senses, then we're just in reaction. Because, people will tell you all kinds of stuff. I mean, I know I'm an information, I like information, and I am a person who listens a lot. And I also know when it's time to just stop and just create space every day, in the morning or in the evening or whenever it is, to create space. And sometimes when people have space, they feel a little bored, because all that information and stress and news and everything, it creates dopamine, which is kind of a feel-good chemistry. But when you spend it all the time, you're also spending adrenaline. You're wiping out your adrenal glands because you're always stimulated. So when people first kind of start getting quiet, they feel bored, and they might even feel a little depressed because they're used to the dopamine. And you don't get dopamine when you quiet. You might get oxytocin and serotonin, which are the kind of feel good. They're more calm feeling, but they're not the high, right? And we like to be high in this culture anyway. We like to drink our coffee and smoke cigarettes and eat sugar and do and listen. Like just that's the modern society. And I know, I get hooked into it too. I have some ADD. And so ADD is like your brain needs to be, kind of stimulated all the time to stay awake. So I know that addiction. So the first thing is to start calming down the noise. And it could be the noise from your family or your spouse or your friends or the world. And to like really think, is this really what I want to be tuning into? What is this doing to my nervous system? I've been on a news fast. I was on a news fast for about 4 years, where I would just listen to the news for 15 minutes once a week. I never felt better in my entire life. My intuition was off the roof. I was just like, it was best. And then I got it back into the news, and not like most people, and I realized, well, my nervous system, what was happening to my nervous system, like, so I'm definitely an activist kind of person. I'm always doing some activist thing. And so I listen to the things where I can actually do something to take action. So don't just tell me problems, because then it's an adrenaline dump. But what can I do? And then tune into my intuition. What is mine to do here? What is mine to do? Is there really something for me to do, or am I just to accept this and be guided to something else? So noise. And Brenda Burchard, who works, the high performance academies, work with presidents and leaders. And he says that taking 10 to 15 minutes every day to be quiet, turn off your phone, take a walk, meditate, look at nature, stretch, extra, do some movement, but to take that every day. And with my clients, every single client, I help them to do that, because even if they're not focusing on their intuition, they will be more intuitive. They will be less reactive. They will have better energy. They will feel better if they take 10 minutes in the morning. And they can do their intention ritual that you learned about. They could light their candle and have their intention. They can breathe and do a little movement and incorporate all of that in that time. So also, when you or anyone else is feeling overwhelmed with a lot to do, what is his name? Oh, Mark Waldman. Mark Waldman. He is a renowned neuroscience researcher. And he says that when you write things down, things that are bothering you, or even your to-do list, that if you write it before you go to bed, your brain won't wake you up. You know how you wake up, some people do, I do sometimes, with my list. Oh, I got to get to this. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, what about her? And writing it all out empties the brain and the ego, so it doesn't feel like it has to wake you up or disturb you in your dreams, because it's like, okay, brain, we got this handled, it's all written down, we're going to address it tomorrow. Or the stresses that you have, they're written down, so they're unloaded. So the brain, the psyche, spirit can do more deeper healing work while you're sleeping. And also you'll have more intuition, and you won't wake up with that anxious feeling, because you've already kind of processed it through the night. So writing things down, things that your to-do list, your stresses, sometimes, again, when I have a question, something's really challenging for me, I just write that question, how should I handle this? And then I just write down, and then I sleep on it. And inevitably, I know I have some guidance the next morning. So these are things that really help your clients to access their inner knowing and their power. It's a superpower. Your intuition is your superpower. And if you have something you want intuitive guidance about, to write it. And I always encourage people to actually do it with pen and paper, because energetically, your hands are connected to the heart channel. And so when you're writing, you're writing more from the heart and the subconscious, rather than when you're writing on the computer, you tend to be more left brain and more analytical, rather than in kind of more right brain, where there's more metaphor, more creativity, different things come up. Or I have people, doodle or draw something, like, I'm always doodling. Like, even when I'm listening to things, I'm like just doodling away. And then I look at it afterwards, it's kind of interesting. Like, there was just something somebody was speaking about, and I have some kind of picture. And sometimes I'm so upset about something, just drawing something, just getting my colors out. And I find that metaphoric imagery helps me to maybe clear a trauma, or to get an insight on a more intuitive, creative brain level. And then again, the tech noise. Oh my God. I mean, we have no idea. This is one of my, things I work on for a long time is the 5G, because I know I'm very sensitive to EMF. So I've got a lot of things in my world to protect me from EMF. And so these things avoid, the basic, don't put it up to your ear and all that, but turning off your Wi-Fi network at night is a really good practice. So you're all night long, you're just being bombarded by your EMFs. So turning off your Wi-Fi at night so your sleep can be like restorative instead of like, making your nervous system on and dealing with those frequencies. And I encourage people to, turn off their phone, turn off their computer, and turn off the blue light. And when they're going to bed, not to have their phone on. That blue light from your computer, it's very destructive to your brain. So, and anytime you like that, and that's a noise, it's a constant noise. I mean, we can't avoid it now. It's just everywhere, but we can diminish it. And anytime there's more quiet on the nervous system, the brain, the organs, the tissue, the psyche, we're going to be more intuitive. And we're going to hear it. So I encourage sometimes people to take a half day news fast, email fast, phone fast, just unplug. And again, sometimes people feel they're so addicted to it, like, it's like their connection to life or something, and it's not. And so they feel uncomfortable, and then they realize, hey, I'm feeling better. Or like that went so much easier, or wow, I didn't realize how addicted I was to like, just plugging in all the time. So those are a couple things. And then space and clutter, just clutter is very distracting to the intuition because it anything that pulls your attention, right? I always talk about that in the circle of life. Everything's either giving you energy or it's taking energy. And clutter right now I have a very cluttery corner right here. I had guests stay, and so everything I kind of that I didn't know what to do with got kind of shoved in this corner, and I can see that corner. And I haven't had a chance to work on it all day. That corner's been driving me nuts because it's not organized, and there's a box. And I realized like my attention, every time I walk in my office, that it goes there. And like a little bit of my attention unit is being spent. And when I know for all of us, when we have a clear space, we feel more open and spacious. We feel better, and we are more intuitive because that's not being pulled on. So, and then the clutter of too many commitments and demands. Know that one? Anybody know that one? Mm-hmm. When you're always doing for others and like, just doing, you're always intuitive. And a lot of us are intuitive in motion, because we're always intuitive. It's not, you have to be still to be intuitive. But when your mind is going and going and going, you're not really dropped into your body unless you're really practicing that all the time. And which is what we like to do in Circle of Life, is to have people breathe, do the 3 mindful alignments, and do some Qigong, do some breathing practices. I know Clint has an awesome breathing practice program. And so we want to like look, is there any clutter and or something cluttering like in your mind that's just going around and around. So these are some things to, get rid of the blocks, right? The blocks that are blocking us. And then when we go into some of the fears and challenges, again, we're just going to be here for about an hour, maybe hour and 5 minutes or so. So the number one human fear, is the unknown. So we will choose something because, you know, I'm sure you've all heard this before. We choose something because we know what's going to happen, even if it sucks, you know, even if it's like, but we know it, like, oh, you know, I have this terrible marriage, but I don't know what it would be like to be single. I don't know how I'd be. So I'll just be with the known, even though this is not working for me at all. And this is actually causing me emotional pain. I'd rather do that, or the vice versa. I'm used to being single. And so being with somebody, you know, so unknown. So it's survival mechanisms get kicked in because we want certainty and we want to know it. Well, we are in the time on our planet where certainty is just not happening. Not happening. There's just, I mean, it really has always been like that. We just didn't know it. There's never been anything certain, but we thought it was. But now we know it isn't. And in America, it's, you know, it's very divided. Everything's very divided. It's a lot of divisions. And there's a lot of different messaging from all different places. And so there's nothing in their government, you know, government or healthcare, whatever, we don't know. So we want certainty. And so we try, I mean, it's just human nature to want to feel safe, to like, well, I just do this, and I do the same habits every day, and I'm just going to, you know, sometimes your intuition, your knowing will require that you make a change that you're afraid of, right? Like I have a client that she started working with me, and she had been married twice before. And then she was describing this man that that she got all wishful thinking happy about, right? So she projected all this stuff that people do when they want something to be a certain way. They project all their fantasies and stuff. They're not paying attention to really what's going on. And so she was describing this man, and I was like, what's your intuition tell you? Because my intuition was like, do not marry this person. But I couldn't say that. But I kept asking her, and she would say things, but she wouldn't say her intuition, because if she really listened to her intuition, she wouldn't have married him, because her intuition already knew. But she was afraid. She was 53 and she weighed like 250 pounds, and she was afraid she'd never be with anybody, and she really wanted a partner. And then 3 years forward, you know, it was a horrendous marriage, nightmare marriage. And she got divorced, and she said to me, she goes, well, you knew, Rebecca, because you knew that I already knew that before I married him. And so, but her intuition would have required that she didn't marry, you know, sorry, you follow me what I'm saying? It may ask you to do something where people might disapprove of you, or you might not, you might think, oh, well, I'm never going to be with somebody. And I gave an example of another client, similar situation in here for you to read through. So our intuition will ask us to expand out of our comfort zone. Now, there's a couple kinds of it. There's many philosophies about intuition, but the two main intuitions are, there's a gut intuition. Now, your gut intuition is basically there to keep you safe. So, oh, don't eat that, get away from that person, drive a different path. It's mostly, or, oh, this feels good. This feels like a pretty good choice here, I feel. So that's a gut. That's more kind of primal and survival. Then the heart intuition doesn't care about you being safe. Your heart intuition is not about survival. Your heart intuition is about expansion and about fulfillment, and it doesn't care about your safety. It wants you to be the fullness of who you are. So first we start with kind of gut, because that's when people need to feel safe first. But then they get that intuition in their heart, like, I really want to express this in the world, or I really want to do this, or I really want to do something creative. And it's in their intuition to do that. But it was going to require courage or support. And that's what we do as coaches, right? Encourage and support and help them work through the challenges. So the common fears about following intuition is being wrong. And the meaning we have about being wrong. Like if I'm wrong, like I was going to swear, but I'll restrain myself. I'm all, I'm all like, oh, well, if I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm inadequate, I'm not right, I'm not good enough. So like being wrong is like this big meaning. And when you're following your intuition, you're going to be wrong sometimes because you're learning. It's a muscle. You're learning. Oh, you're learning. You start getting more discerning about what intuition really is for you and not fear. Failure to follow through in your intuitive guidance, not doing what it takes or even giving up. So sometimes you get an intuitive message, but you just feel you don't have the courage or the belief in yourself to follow through, and you just give it up. I'm being criticized by others, like I talked about with my family. I mean, I would say things at dinner. I was just like, a child, and I would just say things because things would just come to me and I would just say them out loud. And so my father would say, you go to your room and, sit in your rocking chair until you can stop talking like that. And so, but he didn't know that I didn't care about my rocking chair because I had this record player next to it. And so I was just like, just rocking out in my rocking chair. But I got the message that there's something wrong with me, right? So being criticized, or people go, oh, that's like ridiculous, or you're not thinking that through, or whatever. Or that another fear is investing so much time and money and energy and it fails. Right? Not knowing what to do next, feeling overwhelmed, inadequate, insecure, or not receiving the support you need to fulfill your intuition, your inner knowing, your authentic self, your soul, your heart, your spirit. Again, all the things in coaching, not believing in myself. I failed so many times. I don't trust myself. So when we think of intuition, and then I'm supporting my clients or my groups, we write down, one of the first things we can do is write down a time that you followed your intuition and you're really glad you did. So if you can make a note of that for yourself, but also with your clients. A time you followed your intuition, you're really glad you did. And as many as you can think of. The more you can write down, the better, because it starts validating, like, wow, that was really accurate. Okay, so have them write down, and I encourage all of you to write down at least 4 or 5 times you followed your intuition. And you're really glad you did. And then writing down, next line, when you knew your intuition, but you didn't follow it and you regretted it, or you had an outcome, you go, I knew that was, my intuition told me not to do that. Or I knew, I had that little quiet voice, but I didn't follow it. And when you're doing that, no judgment, because what it does is validate your intuition again. Because when you don't follow it and you have a consequence that you don't like, or an outcome, or, that you don't feel good about, or you're not enjoying, it validates, my intuition told me that. So even if it was you didn't follow it and you had a consequence, that just validates again, yes, I can rely on my intuition. So we really want to encourage our clients and yourself to keep remembering all those times. So then again, I'm just going to let you read through it. You've all kind of read through it. It may require change, letting go, and leaving your comfort zone. I like this quote by Tama Keeves. It's hard to let insights in if we have dead bolted doors. sometimes we're begging for clarity, just as long as it's nice, tidy, respectable answer, and preferably one that doesn't require us to change at all. Right? So that's the other thing about intuition is it might ask you to do something that you're afraid of or that you don't want to do. Right? And so you start closing yourself off to it because I don't want to manage that. I don't know how to. So does any of those ring true for you in your life? Any of these things that are blocking your intuition or fears that you have, or is there any other fears that you have that we didn't talk about? So if any of those ring true for you, just raise your hand or just, Great. Right. So we're noticing what those fears are. Then I'm doing this on, kind of like I'm on coffee or sweet or something.
Pat raised the hand and then Mina also.
What was that? Oh, raise hand.
Pat raised the hand and then Mina.
Yeah. So I was just saying, did you, any of these fears, I was just having people raise hand if they felt like some of these fears. Maybe let's have a couple people share. What is one of the fears that you noticed for you? Anybody wanted to share one of the fears that they had?
Unmute yourself, please, Mina.
Common fears?
I was just talking to Dr. Kalin just before the session. One of the things I have noticed is fear all my life. Fear is one, and then the followed by fear is my mind kind of threatens me. Oh yeah, you didn't do this, judge. You were supposed to do this work and you are not done it. And you're supposed to apply for the college. You are not done this yet. Time is getting out. I don't have enough time. So yeah, fear is one thing. And because of fear, what happens, because of the unknown, I kind of run away, avoid the situation, procrastinate till the time I had to do it now. So yes, that's something I identified.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm connecting myself to the breath. Dr. Kalin introduced this breath techniques. So I kind of understood probably I'm over breathing, So I just made the connection with that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mina. Anybody else feels like what they know blocks their intuition or what? Yes, Rhonda.
The fear thing is a big thing because sometimes I'm intuitive and empathic, but sometimes because of my fundamentalist upbringing, I get fearful of where the information has arrived from. So it's I'm doing that dance all the time.
And is there anything you do that would like help you with that fear?
Well, one thing is like if the message is if it's a message is persistent, then I know to pay attention to it. And also it's like if it comes with an attitude, it's not a, you know what I mean? Like the intuition with an attitude, it's disrespectful. It tells me I'm stupid. Oh, you're ugly. All that, the negative. I don't want to pay attention to that. So that's like a negative, for me, it's like a negative source. It's like, is the whatever guidance I'm getting, is it loving? Can I be loving toward myself when receiving the guidance? And I typically don't share my guidance with others unless they ask, what would you do? I go, because, you don't want to color any, I would get a little tweaked if somebody said, oh, I think my intuition tells me you should do this. And I just want to go, bye-bye. I don't want to listen to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
As powerful to say that. I'm glad I got to share that.
Thank you, Rhonda. Clint.
So I had the similar situation. Many times it happens when I did get the intuition, I don't want to express it to others because they feel that I'm way ahead of time, way ahead of everything. And the resistance comes from outside most of the time. And many of the times intuition is correct. But you say, well, you're in a different world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you,
That's
Colin.
that's how I get a lot of times, yeah.
So what do you do with that?
Um, well, as far as I don't get fearful, if my intuition is right, I act upon what my intuition is. But many times it becomes a rough waters, to navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Clint. Anyone else have something that they feel like is blocking their intuition? Blocking or fear that comes up? Yes, Susan. Susan.
Hi, great to be here. Great to hear everything. I guess I relate with all of it, but I was thinking when you talked about the lack of trust, because I've had kind of a similar experience my whole life with, like you had said, with it wasn't exactly like that, but I definitely felt, and like Clint was saying, I was having intuitions that other people weren't having, and would talk about certain things, and people thought it was very interesting, but it alienated me, and over time, it's been kind of tricky. And so it helped to get to know myself a lot more. It helped. But I have a lot of the fears come up. I'll have intuition. I kind of align myself with stuff, but then the fears come up and the self-doubt comes up, like they talked about, and I try and get myself back, but then I start second guessing myself sometimes with stuff, especially with the climate of everything going out. So I get insecure because I'm like, don't say anything because nobody here gets you, and thankfully I have some communities of people that do, but not a lot. So, the world is tricky. So this is definitely helpful because the self-trust,
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much, Susan. Anyone else have something that they feel is blocking their intuition or following? Yes, Pat.
If, for example, there's been a past trauma, some sort of abusive situation, be it verbal, physical, or just perceived threat of this or that, making a link to what we're thinking now and having it bring up that past trauma. And then we begin to go into re-experiencing some of that trauma. So there's an immediate shutting down.
Yeah. And that's, we have those imprints on our nervous system and our, when we have trauma. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Any fears that come up or anything that blocks you? Do you feel your intuition is blocked? And because of our time, I just want to talk about anything that you've done with your clients. Have you asked them about their intuition, or what does their wise woman say to them, or their wise man say to them? Like, people will be talking to me as a client, and then I go, so what does your wise woman have to say about that? And it interrupts, and almost always, not every time, the person will come up with something because I'm interrupting their spinning mind. Mina.
I have a question, Rebecca, here. When I'm working with client, I heard word trauma. When somebody had trauma and they're still living, they have that trauma, right? And they're kind of numbed because of the trauma and not getting any intuition. What are some of the options as coach, to work with them?
Well, a few things is I know some techniques of working with trauma because I've studied it quite a bit. I often refer somebody to some kind of trauma work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very much into somatic work, something that connects with the body, not talking, because talking doesn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, Roger taught all these people who were, veterans who had severe trauma, and taught them Tai Chi Easy. And just that movement going across the body is de-traumatizing to the brain. It starts rewiring the brain. I remember him having somebody, man, share. He said that he was sleeping with 6 guns in his bed, and he'd only slept for like 3 or 4 hours for like 6-7 years. He took the Tai Chi Easy training, started teaching others, and he said within 3 months he got rid of all his guns, and he started sleeping for like 7 hours after like 6 years of just that, because again, it retrains, it reorients the brain. You're breathing, you're relaxing, you're meditating. So not that works for everybody, but we've many stories of how Tai Chi Easy.
Okay. Okay. Mhm.
Yeah. The
I was
body.
Oh.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that one of the reasons I love Circle of Life is because there's so much creativity emphasis. So I really, really emphasize it even more to get creative, use nature and music and all that to deal with the, fight or flight or whatever, all the things,
Yeah.
especially because that's such a sensitive area. I don't want to get too into that for people. I can share about stuff I've been healing with and how I use, the Tai Chi. And actually I have the singing bowl and I use all of our modalities. And I encourage people to I have them get all their art supplies to do the initial, and then I just keep telling people how important mandalas are and all of the stuff. I really encourage it, and it's fun to wake people up and explain the whole thing about art, how a lot of people think they're not creative, that whole thing.
Yeah, so creativity is another way of helping people to access, again, more integration of the right and left brain. And Qigong to me is like just an easy way to do, but sometimes people are really traumatized and they really need to work with a trauma therapist. And, I've recommended all kinds of, what I do is I get a list of different types of therapy, like YouTube links or whatever. And I see like, which one does any of these speak to them? Because I'll, just like when you're training, when I feel like somebody's really stuck and they really can't proceed with me very much, is I'll say, I just think you might need a different, kind of support right now than I can offer you. But I don't do that right away. Because there's always things like just really helping them with the self-care. Like always, self-care is a core of Circle of Life. So, I want to make more money. I want to buy a house. I want to have a great relationship. Let's just start with some meditation practices, some exercise, nutrition. Again, talking about clutter, like, is there too many demands on you? Is there somewhere that is time to say no? Or is there something you really want to say yes to? And when people are traumatized, I break things down to so small that they can do it. And I do that just generally because I like small, because that's how I operate. And so helping them to take something and just something small, and they will feel, anytime we take an action step and we can celebrate it or make a big deal about it, like, you made a shift and you did take that small step, and then they get the dopamine and they get the good brain chemistry from small successes. But I really emphasize the self-care because that's the foundation. Anybody else work with? Yes, Deanne.
Yeah, unmute yourself.
Yes. The value of repetition, along with an LSD trip, long, slow, deep breath, it's found to be very helpful for people who have trouble just sitting quietly and still, for whatever reasons. And I was reminded of rosary beads, or many major religious traditions use beads, and that repetition. I like to crochet, and that repetition puts me into a space where I'm listening. And that's where the intuition comes in. So to help people use the movement or find something that relaxes them and is repetitive seems to be helpful.
Yeah, gardening, that's my practice. Just like I'm just moving rocks around, like, I'm in bliss. I have all these rocks and I just move them around, like front yard, backyard up. And I get into a very open hearted place because we want our hearts to be open. And right now we feel that feeling of wanting, I feel myself, I'm owning it myself, is that it's this feeling because I'm an empath. There's a part of me that's shutting down because I don't want to feel everything. And so I noticed, for a week or so, it's like I just kind of noticed, like I just felt kind of shut down, and I just reverted to my mind, like, okay, well, yeah. And so I know that I can be open-hearted, and I can just allow whatever feelings need to be there to come up and just feel them. Okay, I'm feeling grief. Okay, I'm feeling sadness. I'm feeling hopeless. Just allow whatever there is and just let it be there. So I think when we're with people, allowing whatever is there to just be there really creates space. And that's what we really all need, is just space and compassion and a container, someone just to be as a container for whatever our wholeness is, whatever that is, our shadows, our fears, our doubts, our victories, our light, to have it all welcomed and to be there with it. So anything else? We've got about, can we go for another 3 minutes, Colin?
Sure.
Okay. Anything else that helps you with your clients or yourself with intuition, with accessing that inner knowing guidance? Yes, Rhonda.
When the client starts to repeat certain phrases, and so it makes you curious. It's like you start smelling, it's like being the pig with the truffle, you just start going, it's a clue, and it keeps coming up. So it wants to reveal itself. And then what you said a few minutes ago stood out to me too. When we fight the feelings that we're having ourselves, then it wears us out. It wears me out, rather than just say, oh, I'm feeling lonely.
Yeah.
And then if we acknowledge, then it transforms. It's just the fight doesn't transform it, at least for me. That's my experience.
Thank you, Rhonda. Yeah, you're talking about resistance.
Yeah, resistance to, I should, if I said, oh, I feel lonely. Oh, you don't need to feel lonely. You have friends, you Zoom. And no, I feel lonely, and then only then can it transform.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think, in my coaching work, I don't try to convince people out of anything. But I let them feel what they need to feel, but then I also help them to see, yes, those feelings are valid, and I'm just there with them and I understand them. And after they've shared those, I do want to illuminate another part, because that's just part of them, right? We just have all these different parts and characters, and we've got a whole play going on here with all these different characters, right? And just some kind of come to the front burner and the back burner, but we truly are who we really are. That's what we want to uncover and live in and know and be. And these other parts are just like that, all these experiences and characters and other people's voices, and but allowing ourselves just to be with a feeling, like you said, it transmutes it. Just being with it, it moves, it changes, and resisting it, it keeps it locked in. It just keeps showing up in all kinds of crazy ways.
Mm-hmm.
I have all kinds of crazy, my body just is like, I can't get away with any stuffing. It's just like, I always get pain. It's just like, okay, all right. I'll feel the freaking feelings. All right, already. So thank you all for your great sharing. Oh, Sally, do you want to say something? unmute?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for the time to be here with you all tonight. I'm not working with clients at this point in time, but my being here is an intuitive hit. When I saw this, I set it aside a week ago. And today I went, no, you need to do this review. You've got some big decisions coming up. So my answer will come. So thank you so much for all your sharing.
Yes.
I'm probably in the years that I've been around have experienced almost every single one of those. Everybody probably has in some form or another. So it's been a beautiful review. I feel supported by your experiences. And Rebecca, as always, with your teaching, Colin as well. So thank you.
Yeah,
And I'm so happy that I followed my intuitive hit to be with you all tonight.
yeah, well, we are glad too.
Right.
So good to see you. Anyone else want to say something? Walter, you want to say hi? Okay, hi, that's Walter. Hi, Walter. Okay, so I have more, and I kind of like to talk about this, I think, like how you distinguish the difference between the voice of the heart and the intuition. And so be sure to read through these because it's some good things, and you can share these with your clients too. I mean, usually charge $200 for this course. I'm just going to give it to you guys. So this is when you kind of send this to somebody, it's a really good conversation with your client, because we want to live through our authentic, maybe you call it soul, spirit, divine guidance, or whatever. And everyone really wants that. And so when you kind of share these things, it helps them to think about where they might be stuck, or what's holding them back, or what messages did they get that have shut down their intuition, or what are they afraid of, and what is maybe one little small step they could do to move towards their intuition, or what's one way to kind of make more space or less noise so they can do it. And so, there's, a lot more. And I want to, just be honest, because honesty is best policy. If you'd like to do a round 2 of this, I can do it in our next session in 2 weeks. Or if you'd rather do another subject, we got lots of subjects. So if you would like to do more about this and kind of investigate it more, have more sharing from all of you, would you just raise your hand? And if you feel like, no, I think so, I want another topic, and I could give you a list of topics that we could cover. And we really want feedback from you, because we want to be talking about what you're interested in. So you could just do it in the chat. Yes or no, I'd rather another subject.
There's one yes from Walter. Yes from Susan Mayer. Yes to intuition, Rhonda. 3 yeses, Deanne, yes, for, I think I'm recruiting everybody now.
All right, so let's do this next session.
Intuition.
We'll continue. I will we're going to go through with the one we didn't get to go through. Is this my head talking and wishful thinking and all of that? It's really, really important. And then I'm going to send another couple.
I have one request though. Please bring your experiences, okay?
Yes.
More sharing, because that's the condition I'm going to put.
Yes.
I mean, don't let that be a fear to you, but it would be very helpful for everyone. I mean, Rebecca's fantastic when you give her a little question or a challenge. You can tap into her intuition and her depth of knowledge and depth of experience a lot more. So let's do that, okay?
Yeah, and all your depths of knowledge, and I mean, you guys are like we're no different than me. Right? I've just chosen to do this little course, but we're all that way. We're all the same. And so we really want to hear, I really appreciate hearing about ways that you've experienced your intuition with clients, like Julie talking about doing the hands-on and kind of knowing exactly where to put her hand, right? It was intuitive. And you hit smelling the smoke and just saying, you know, somebody, we're all doing it and we want to share so we can encourage each other to follow that in ourselves and with our clients. So we'll go for it next week. There'll be a different, I may add a couple handouts. So, you know,
22nd, right? 22nd.
22nd.
Yeah, 22nd is the next session.
All right, everybody. So good to see you. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. Invite